Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thank you for coming to watch. So I've got guys an update on a significant hurricane threat that we have brewing here for portions of the Atlantic Ocean. We have a significant hurricane threat with obviously a potential major hurricane over the next couple of days. I've got all the details coming right up. Alright, so thank you for joining me here on this Saturday evening. We once again have a lot to go over in this video. We're going to be talking about all the latest model guidance on newly formed Invest 97L. Which is expected to strengthen into a strong to potentially major hurricane over the next couple of days. So I am joined by Davis Does Weather.
Hello there.
And he's going to be helping me out with today's forecast. So as always, we're going to start out here by taking a look at what we got as in our main development region across portions of the Southern Atlantic. You can see Invest 97L just popping up on your screen here off the coast of Africa. It is emerging off the coast of Africa right now, south of the Cabo Verde Islands. It is starting to pop off in that convection there, so those deeper greens and even blues there you see, those are some showers and thunderstorms that are convecting, so those are going to kind of give us an idea of, how strong the storm is. Obviously, right now it's very unorganized, but once it gets into the main development region and eventually the Southwest Atlantic, it's going to go bonkers, alright? So we definitely need to make sure that we are keeping a close eye on that storm. But if we take a look at our NHC 7-day forecast, you can see they have highlighted a 60% chance of formation within the next 7 days. So once again, that is a 60% chance. So what they're saying is that a broad area of low pressure associated with a tropical wave is producing a large area of disorganized showers and thunderstorms just off the west coast of Africa. Environmental conditions appear conducive for gradual development of the system, and a tropical depression could form by the middle of or later portion of next week, while moving northwestward at 15 to 20 miles per hour across the eastern and central tropical Atlantic. So basically, what we just read there is that the storm is going to continue to move across the MDR, eventually into the Southwest Atlantic, where we do see very, very favorable conditions for further development. And so that's where we're going to be taking a look at the models just to see kind of, how intense that development could get. So if we take a look here at the GFS, this is the latest 18.0 of the GFS, and you may think that, well, why am I showing this? Because it's such like a fairyland model run. Well, there has been such incredible model agreement on basically how strong this storm is going to get, to the point where we have a pretty good idea on if this storm is going to strengthen into a strong hurricane or not. Now we're going to be comparing the GFS and the Euro and even the Euro AI just for kind of, what areas may need to be on alert. But if we look at the latest GFS model, you can see that you have your tropical wave here, 1,007 millibars, already closing out in tropical depression status, and at this point, we're getting into the 13th, so this is 4 days from now. We're getting into your Wednesday. You could already have a potential tropical depression, even tropical storm cannot be ruled out here, so very, very early signs of strengthening, and then by the time we get into the 14th, which should be your Thursday here, we already have a 998 millibar low pressure system, which is likely going to be our tropical storm here. And so this is a strengthening system, very compact system, moving into the Southwest Atlantic, which is absolutely loaded for tropical development. But if we take a look, you can see as we get into the 15th, so this is about a week out or so from now, we have a 975 Cat 1, Cat 2 hurricane in the wide open Southwest Atlantic, so very, very favorable conditions for further development, and this just continues to chug towards the United States. So a lot of you are probably very worried, watching this model run. Well, I do have good news. Typically, tropical systems like to gain latitude or move north when they strengthen. So in this case, we see that the storm strengthens to a 948 millibar low. This is getting into Sunday, so this is just about a week and a day out, 192 hours out, so a little bit far out, but not too far out. We have a most likely Cat 3, Cat 4 hurricane barreling into the Southwest Atlantic just north of Bahamas. And just as expected, it makes that northward turn. Now, a lot of the models yank this thing out to sea due to high pressure systems blocking the storm from moving into the United States, and the eventual trough moving into the northeast and picking the storm out to sea. That is very, very specific, so we don't have a good idea on if that's going to happen yet because of how far out this is. But with the latest GFS, the storm continues to move north, and it gets very. I mean, we're talking about not even uncomfortably close to the Carolina coastline. Doesn't exactly make landfall there. And I mean, this is getting very, very far out. We're talking over 300 hours. But in this scenario, this makes a technical landfall on Cape Cod and coastal regions of southern New England there as a very, very strong hurricane. So that is a very bold and aggressive run of the GFS. Now, I'm not calling this a fairy tale run because this, I do believe, is a true possible scenario. Now, is this exactly going to happen? No, absolutely not. And I don't want you to tell your cat's brother's dog's cousin that we are going to see a possible major hurricane impacts the New England coastline on August 22nd. That's not going to happen. But something like this could definitely happen, and regions, near here definitely need to be on alert. Alright, so we can actually even, just before we move on to the Euro, we can compare this to where the 12Z GFS, the afternoon run, had this, and you can see it's just a slight tick west. The afternoon run had this just off the coast, just kind of grazing the land there, but definitely still a concerning 2 runs from the GFS there. But now we look at the Euro. Alright, so what the Euro shows is that we get that low pressure system a little bit farther north than where the GFS had it, and you'll notice that at this point the GFS had pretty much a Category 1 hurricane. The Euro doesn't even have a tropical depression, so very late strengthening with the Euro, and it kind of fights off this high pressure system, the Bermuda High, that's keeping this to the south, and it's really not strengthening until it gets into, areas around Bermuda. Bermuda, right around here, we have now a 956 millibar, a likely Cat 2, Cat 3 hurricane, now in the wide open central Atlantic, and this is undergoing rapid intensification, but it doesn't come anywhere near the U.S. coastline. So if this were to play out, which I think is obviously a very possible scenario, this is where we could see potentially even nobody getting hit, and that's why we don't want to go right to conclusions and say, oh, the entire East Coast needs to be on alert for major hurricane landfall. This is why we don't say that, because the Euro doesn't even have any areas getting impacted, and I think that's, obviously a possible scenario, but with the GFS in mind, you have to realize that it's also possible that we will see a East Coast strike. Now, is it going to happen? We don't know for sure, but it's definitely possible. So that's the latest European model. Now, quickly, we'll jump to the European AI, and we'll see what the Euro AI shows, and it does bring the storm into the southwest Atlantic, even bring some rainfall and some windy conditions into the Bahamas here. This is at about 2 p.m. August 18th, so this is about a week and a couple days out. We do see very rapid intensification with this, as well as it gets very close to the Florida coastline, and then it kind of moves its way up to sea and all the way up into the northeast. So the Euro AI wants very light strengthening and wants the storm to kind of move into the southeast coastline there, and I think that's also definitely a possibility that we can't rule out, but I would definitely not say that it's going to be one of our highest probabilities. So Davis, I'm gonna hand things over to you. What are your thoughts on just the 3 model runs that we've looked at, in terms of just which one you think is the most accurate in terms of where we could see the storm going?
Yeah, so something that's important to note is that obviously, while those are the 3 most recent model runs on all of the big 3 there that we typically use for long-range forecasting, there are certainly more in the past that we've had that have been, throwing different scenarios than even what we've just shown there. There's been, some scenarios where the GFS wants it to go into Texas, or there's been some scenarios where the Canadian doesn't even have it developing, or there's some scenarios where the Euro has it hitting the East Coast. So what's really important to remember here is that the location of impact and landfall in particular here are going to change. We're still 250, 300 hours out from this system actually making any impact on United States soil. But the thing that you should take away from this is we have an environment out here in the Atlantic. We have a wave off of the coast of Africa this is peak hurricane thriving conditions. I mean, you don't. So what's important to note is the actual landfall location with this system is going to change as we get closer and closer to the event day by day. But what you should take away from this is there's very clearly an environment out here that is going to be conducive for the development of a hurricane. We've got extremely high SSTs. We've got a wave off the coast of Africa. We're in mid-August. We could potentially see some ridging across portions of the United States. That is going to be the saving grace for most of the lower 48, I think, in the most likely scenario. I do certainly think it's still possible to see this go out to sea or even potentially make landfall in the Gulf, but I think the most likely case scenarios we see this kind of draw out to sea, obviously, as your tropical systems, as Vincent mentioned earlier, typically like to favor latitude. But we will see what happens. Again, it's kind of hard to forecast these little intricate things, 200, 300 hours out. So it'll change over time, but the takeaway here, at least from me, would be don't necessarily focus too closely on one or two model runs. Take the entire pool of what we've got. Keep staying consistent with these forecast updates because that location is going to change a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you said there, and what we're doing here is just we're taking all the information we can get, literally all of it, and we're just trying to figure out what the most likely scenario may be. Obviously, again, like David said, extremely far out, so confidence will increase here on out, but it is still, 250, 300 hours out, where we are still seeing some model runs that might not be the most accurate. But we're going to be moving on here to the GFS Ensemble. This is going to give us an idea of where all of the GFS members are kind of depicting a possible track for this system. So we're going to push this out to about 294 hours here. And you can see about half the tracks bring this east of Bermuda, So this would likely once again spare everyone on the eastern seaboard all the way out to Atlantic Canada from a impact from this hurricane. But you can see still a lot of our members off to the west bringing this storm into the east coast and potentially into Nova Scotia or Newfoundland. So a lot of different scenarios. You can see a lot of kind of wide variation there. When you usually see a pretty wide spaghetti model like this, that means, when the models are all over the place, there isn't great agreement on where this is going to go. So that's why, you can't really jump to conclusions with anything this far out because you just don't have a great idea as to where this is going to go. But I will say, there's not really a tick east or west, but there's definitely still a few members that bring this towards land, so that's why we still need to be monitoring this system for our folks out here on the eastern seaboard. But now we look at the European Ensemble. Now, what does the European Ensemble show? Well, it also shows a good half of the members bring the storm east of Bermuda with no landfalls and no impacts to land. But there are those, 10, 11, 12 members that do bring this towards land as strong hurricanes. You can see 976, 977, 978, 976. So you get the idea. These are strong hurricanes that are bring the members of the European Ensemble, they are bringing this towards land. So if this were to play out, obviously we would have to be worried for the East Coast, but there's still that chance that we could see the storm turn out to sea. So basically, after looking at this, I just want to make sure you guys understand that the models are all over the place still, and that they don't have a good idea as to where this is going to go. But there's really two outcomes as to if this is going to make landfall somewhere on the East Coast or the Eastern Seaboard, or if this is going to go directly out to sea. So we're going to be moving here onto the GFS for your total precipitable water anomalies here. And so this is basically going to give us an idea of how moist or how dry the atmosphere is. Basically, where you see the warmer colors, where you see the green and the blue, this is where you're talking about very, very moist and, rich conditions for hurricane development. But wherever you see the browns and the whites, that's where you kind of see more unfavorable conditions for hurricane development. And you can see as our storm continues to move towards the southwest Atlantic, it fights off this little bit of Saharan dust, but watch as it moves into the Atlantic, how everything just opens up, and as soon as that happens, we see the strengthening of this hurricane into, again, that 941 millibar low. That's where we saw the GFS just absolutely turn this thing up in intensity. We see rapid intensification, and as it moves and draws closer to the northeast, obviously it has that wide open warm sector there and just kind of wiggles right in. So that's why, there is a chance for a landfall on the East Coast, is if we do see a trough or kind of, any area of favorable atmospheric conditions. A hurricane like this gaining latitude would definitely move into that environment. So it's way too far out to predict if we're going to see this exact environment, because again, there could be a lot of dry and unfavorable air at the time of when the system does move into this region, or we could actually see something like this where we do get a trough and more favorable conditions that brings the storm towards land. So the main kind of topic of this video is just to kind of get an idea of the two scenarios where this storm could go into land or could go out to sea, but we really don't know for sure which one is actually going to happen. So we move on here to the GFS for your steering currents here. So you can see in your red and orange colors. This is where you have high pressure ridging. This is where we're going to see the storm get blocked off by wherever that high pressure is, and then that low pressure where you see that trough. That's where we're going to be able to see the storm get yanked potentially into land or out to sea. So as the storm moves into the southwest Atlantic, when you start to see that rapid intensification, you can see a lot of these blues and these whites. This is wide open land. This is where the storm can pretty much move anywhere. This little bit of Bermuda ridging, or the Bermuda High as we like to call it, this is what usually steers storms closer towards the eastern seaboard and the East Coast during hurricane season. And so that's why everyone was so worried about potential East Coast hurricane strike, is because the Bermuda High was expected to be very strong this year. Now that's what's keeping the storm from going way out to sea, and you can see a lot of ridging building up north. So there's a lot of blues and a lot of whites in the United States here. So we see if this hurricane does take advantage of that, and it does. But you can see a lot of that ridging moves east. So it was starting out directly over the northeast. Now it moves east of there. That helps bring the storm closer towards land, as a nearby trough also picks it up and brings it directly into the United States. That is the scenario where you could have a potential significant hurricane strike on the eastern seaboard. Is that going to happen? We don't know for sure, as again, we're talking about 250 plus hours out. So this is a very specific time frame, very far out. So a lot is going to change, but this is one of the scenarios where we could actually end up seeing someone get impacted by this potential major hurricane. So Davis, what are your thoughts on just the last two kind of, sections of the video, just, based off what this data shows, what do you think could be the outcome if something like this does happen? You're muted.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
So the situation where we would be watching for obviously the greatest potential impacts to humanity would be if we saw something like this go through New England. So that would, in a way, be a worst case scenario. Now, again, this is all predicated on whether or not we're going to see that ridging. And again, things like that cannot physically be forecasted with any sort of significant accuracy this far out. So I think, again, your greatest takeaway from here would be just to be aware across the entirety of the East Coast, be assuming that you are in the track for the worst case scenario here, and be preparing for whatever you need to do over the next couple of weeks. But realistically, do I think a New England landfall is likely? I would say probably not. Again, it all comes down to those last second changes in things like the jet stream. It is all going to be dependent on these minor, intricate, very small things that we can't look at this far out. It's hard to look at those things even just a week out, let alone 2 weeks out. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. It would be, obviously, a weakening system if it were to travel that far north. So in a way, that would be better if we saw this, potentially get down to Category 2, Category 3 intensity, and then make landfall rather than making Cat 5 somewhere on the southeast coast. but obviously, either way, we don't want to see something like that happen. So, yes, the preferable outcome would be for this to go out to sea.
Yeah, so I mean, I agree with everything you said there. Obviously, very far out this time frame here, but if the storm does move into the New England coastline, obviously it's terrible that it makes landfall, but hopefully, as it moves north into cooler waters and a little bit, less favorable conditions, we will see hopefully the storm weaken if that does happen. But we quickly take a look at your sea surface temperatures right now. This is what we've got going on in the Southwest Atlantic. This is where the storm is going to be traveling through. So this is the environment that the storm is going to be moving into. The warmer the sea surface temperatures, the more favorable the tropics are for hurricane development. And you can see, I mean, the Southwest Atlantic is just loaded. You're seeing widespread 28 to 32 degrees Celsius sea surface temperatures. So you're talking sea surface temperatures just below 90 degrees across this entire area. So just think of what a tropical storm or hurricane potentially could do if it got a hold of this. That's what we're worried about. And because it's so close to land, that's why we're somewhat worried that we could have a potentially, Cat 3, Cat 4, Cat 5 situation not too far away from the southeast coastline. So I definitely do think that if the storm does make it into the Southwest Atlantic, it will undergo rapid intensification, obviously with that favorable atmospheric pattern. But I really do think that this is a pretty alarming map that we see here, just with how high these SSTs are. So we move on here to, actually, that is the last part of the video. So I appreciate all of you for coming to watch. Just make sure that you guys stay subscribed to the channel, that you have notifications on. Hit that like button, subscribe to Davis. We will be keeping you guys informed all through the week, all through next week, on where the system is going to go, how strong it's going to get, and who needs to be prepared. So, once again, thank you all for coming to watch. Go subscribe to Davis. His channel will be linked in the description and in the comment section below. Subscribe, hit that subscribe button down below, and we will see you guys in the next video.